This is Beat the Closing Line.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beat the Closing Line. I am your host, Nicole Russo, alongside NFL analyst for TheLines.com, Eli Hershkovich. As you know, each Thursday we bring on a special guest to talk about the sports betting industry or how the season is going so far. And this week we are going to be talking to Mike Mazzio, writer over at Legal Sports Report. He's covering all things gambling industry in the U.S. as well as sports betting. Mike, thanks for joining us today. How's it going?
Doing well, guys. Nicole and Eli, thanks a lot for having me.
Of course, before we get started on the interview, just make sure that you like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, if you are listening to us where you get your podcasts, subscribe to the Beat the Closing Line pod and make sure on Apple to leave us a 5-star review for your chance to win an Amazon gift card. Without further ado, I'm going to let Eli take it away for the first question.
Yeah, so we keep hearing about the potential for retail sports betting in Massachusetts, potentially before the Super Bowl, coming out in late January, then online sports betting getting launched before March Madness, which is obviously a huge timeline. We've seen that in a couple states going back to last year even. Is this a realistic timeline, though, considering the process that's been going on with the state in terms of actually launching sports betting?
Is it realistic? I mean, that's the hope. They've continually called it an aggressive timeline. And so, the regulators are meeting at this second as we're talking right now. The big news was that DraftKings wanted them to reconsider. DraftKings was basically the only operator. They had a roundtable in September. They said, are you guys comfortable with a staggered launch where retail would go first and then mobile? DraftKings said, no, we want the universal start date. Why? I guess because they don't have a brick and mortar operation, but they employ a lot of people in Massachusetts. So they figure, well, we're paying taxes just like they are. We don't want anyone to get an advantage. We don't want like Wynn, MGM, Barstool to have that advantage where they don't have online yet, but they're launching retail. They're getting their brand out there. They're getting their name out there. Whatever. I mean, people in Boston, people in Massachusetts know DraftKings. So I would personally be surprised if they can turn this thing because that may delay things already, right? Like a lot of people are like, how come you don't have online up by the Super Bowl? That just makes perfect sense. If your goal is to make money for your state and tax revenue, the Super Bowl is the king. So have that event available for people to bet online and then grow your marketplace. Obviously, that's not going to happen, right? They're hoping to get the casino, to have people be able to bet at the casinos by the Super Bowl. The way that they go through regulations, with people, basically, there's a couple of people on the commission that have, very strong legal backgrounds. They want to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there's no problems, right? All the I's are crossed and the T's are dotted, whatever. I just messed that up, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah, I think I just messed that up, but that's fine. Anyway, so they have a divide usually on a lot of issues, and it causes them to like punt votes on things that they need to get done. They need to get regulations done. And so they punted them to this week. So there's like 12 votes before they even bring up this DraftKings issue. So we'll see how they, go by the time, later today, a couple hours, we'll probably know whether DraftKings gets their change. I mean, I'd just be shocked. Then back to your original question, whether they get this done by retail by the Super Bowl and then online by March Madness, I don't know. You just never know with them because things could get delayed and they are on an aggressive timeline. And I feel like the people on the back end think they can pull this off. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put this timeline out there. But the commission really likes to go through everything and have control. And they really like to do things by the book. So we'll see.
I mean, we've seen states turn it around really quickly, but like you said, it depends on how quickly the commission wants to get through these rules and regulations. So it definitely can be done. We've seen it be done in the past, but like you said, it just depends on those regulators. Taking a look at the rest of the U.S. landscape as a whole, outside of Massachusetts, what states are most likely going to come on board next with some form of legal sports betting?
Yes, I mean, I think Maryland is up next. They have a qualification hearing right now as we speak. So there's like 10 online sports betting operators. I would just assume they're all going to be approved. Again, whether we come back in a couple hours and one or two doesn't get in, I don't know, but I would think they'll all go through. It was a lot of the usual suspects, right? DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, MGM. Fanatics is the interesting one. They want to go live January 2023. And so I think Maryland, assuming everything goes well, I think SWARC meets November 21st. So assuming they get all the licenses approved, they get the regs approved, December, I think, for that state should go live for online sports betting, which is, huge for that marketplace, right? DC has had its share of struggles. That just came out. Virginia has, I think, 13 sports books online. Yeah. So that's, super competitive market, lots of places for residents and people in that area to go to bet legally. Ohio, January 1st, 2023. That's coming up. That's, again, huge for that market. And then, and then I think it's a question of what's next after that. A lot of states TBD, but, Maryland and Ohio should be the next two.
And then I'm going to follow up with one that is not so good news, and that is California. So there was polling done for Prop 27 in California, which was the proposition to legalize sports betting, and it's only 27% of the voters supported it, or what it looked like on that polling. You just wrote a recent article that I believe you said went up at midnight on Legal Sports Report that Governor Gavin Newsom ended up coming out and saying that he did not support that prop as well. So what's the fallout for sports books if this isn't legalized? And do you think it even gets legalized by 2024?
Yeah, just nothing, like you said, Nicole, nothing looks good there. The governor finally coming out. I mean, it already looked like it was dead. I mean, it just seems like it's on life support at this point, if that's even fair, Strange timing, I guess. But, he comes out hours, earlier in the day. And next thing you know, PPIC puts out a poll that's 26%. It was Prop 27 was polling at 27%. Now this poll says it's polling at 26%. But regardless of what it is, it's not good, right? And then Prop 26, which would be the tribal retail, is polling at 34%. So that also looks, like it's done and dusted. So yeah, I mean, is 2024 possible? I think it depends. First off, the sports books are in their own little world. The tribes are really upset with them at this point. It's definitely ugly between the sides. The tribes pretty much want to control everything. They want control of that online casino. That seems to be the key in everything. Sportsbook's kind of just a vehicle to get there. And so the tribes are going to have to meet. There's 110 tribes. They all kind of have differing interests. So it's going to be tough for them to all come together. And they really don't necessarily want the sportsbooks involved unless basically, as Victor Rocha of the Pechanga said, like, we don't want you to be anything but our tech providers, like our B2B, just, where you would power our app, but it would be called like the Morongo app or the San Manuel app or the Pechanga app. So yeah, I don't think DraftKings and FanDuel, Caesars, MGM are going to be amenable to that at this point. I mean, maybe they have to because they want the market access and they want the revenue there, but I mean, that just doesn't sound too appealing for sports books that have huge brands across the country when every other state is legalizing pretty much at this point. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, Nicole, whether it goes 2024, we'll see. They're definitely going to try to push that. I think the sports books have to push that, but they also have to probably go with a different approach because this approach clearly hasn't worked. And they somehow have to get on the same page with the tribes. And I mean, if it's going to go in 2024, there needs to be one proposition, not two. And there doesn't need to be confusing messaging. I mean, the only people that should be against it in 2024, if everybody gets on the same page, would be like, addiction people who don't want the spread legalization as we kind of see in every state. But these two sides have to sort of get on the same page, and the tribes want to be in control of everything. And at this point, I don't think it can happen unless that's the case, really. Or, whether we hit the recession or there's a change in the administrations, right? The government, something like that. Somebody's motivated there. But right now, the governor's not motivated. Doesn't seem like any key legislator there is motivated to move it. And so, yeah, I think we're kind of at a standstill. And yeah, 2024 seems crazy at this point, but a lot can obviously change in 2 years. So we'll see where we're at.
Within that negative rant, Mike, you mentioned DraftKings, and you've mentioned DraftKings a lot here during this podcast. And they have that reported deal with ESPN, assuming they do end up expanding their betting coverage. We've seen it with NBC Sports. I was watching the Bulls game here in Chicago last night, and they have a betting cast essentially where they have all the betting odds on the side with player props and live odds, live betting markets. What kind of shift do you think we could see here with ESPN in the coming years? And again, kind of similar to the other topics we've discussed, is it realistic considering the Disney connection?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that Burke Magnus, the head of programming, talked about on Monday at a summit I went to in New York. He was asked basically, what do you kind of foresee? And he said, we want to be in the sports betting space. We have no hesitations, which obviously they do, right? Because it's 4 years after PASPA fell. So they've had tons of hesitations. That's doesn't really equate to reality of what's going on, right? ESPN's had hesitations, whether it's because they're a Disney brand, they're quote unquote like family brand. Sure, maybe that is something. But, somebody asked them, that's what they said. Do you have hesitations because you're a family brand? And he said, no, we don't have any, we know our fans want it. We pulled them, they want it. So we're going to be in the space. Obviously, they have a lot of content up right now. They have the deals with Caesars and DraftKings. The Bloomberg report is they're going to go exclusive with DraftKings. Neither side has confirmed or denied that. So, I mean, at this point, it seems like it makes a lot of sense. But how it's going to manifest, as Burke said, they don't know. They just know they're not a sports book, so you're not going to see ESPN Sportsbook coming out. But perhaps you see some sort of DraftKings odds or whatever it is, and maybe a link to go to DraftKings to bet, through ESPN. I don't know at this point, right? They have the ESPN Plus stream. And then I think a lot of this, as there's industry speculation, just rumor at this point, conjecture is like, is this for the TV rights, right? The NBA TV deal is going to be up, I think, in 2024, 2025. So is that where they're headed? Does DraftKings kind of want to get a piece of the pie? ESPN wants that exclusivity, as Burke said. But, is that where they're going, where you get that single screen experience? Like you said, with PointsBet and the Bulls, right? The Bulls broadcast. Like, is that something where you're going to be able to watch the game on your iPad and be able to click through live odds that are from, DraftKings, FanDuel, whoever has that deal? I think that's kind of where it's headed to me. But there's certainly a lot of hurdles there because you got latency, you have the TV rights. There's just a lot of things that need to be figured out at this point. But that, to me, is where sort of why you'd want to make this deal. I would think if you're DraftKings, besides just getting your brand recognition and aligning with ESPN, which is such a powerful brand, it's probably a smart move long-term as well.
We're going to switch gears here a little bit and delve into some sports. So we know that the World Series is about to start tomorrow. For those of you that don't know, Mike is based in New York and actually covered the Yankees for quite a bit of time. And we're going to talk Aaron Judge. So there were odds posted for Aaron Judge's next team if he does end up leaving the Yankees. The Giants were the favorite at plus 200. Next, it's Mets at plus 250 and Dodgers at plus 350. Do you have an opinion on where he might go next?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. People that are more plugged in than me at this point, because I'm kind of outside this. I'm talking to sports betting people now, not Yankee people, but basically say even the Yankees don't know at this point what's going to happen. So, I mean, from all indications, he's never said he wants to leave. He continues to say he wants to say, loves being a Yankee. But I think of those teams you just mentioned, the Giants is definitely the one to look out for. They have, I think, a lot of payroll flexibility, need some power. I mean, he's a phenomenal face for your franchise. And, his family's from California. He grew up there. He was a Giants fan when he was a kid. There's a lot of links there that make a lot of sense for him to jump into, second spot in the lineup, third, fourth, wherever they want to hit him. He just fits in perfectly. He's lead by example guy, keeps himself clean off the field, really doesn't have any issues, has led the, most arguably, whatever you want to call it, like the most prestigious franchise in professional sports, had success on the field. It was ridiculous that he was booed in the playoffs. I couldn't believe it. He basically single-handedly carried the team. And then obviously the Yankees lowballed him and then said what they offered him and kind of wanted to make him look greedy. But now, I mean, it looks like he could get, who knows, 30, 40 million. He pretty much can name his price at this point. He can get as many years as he wants. So I think at the Yankees, as they'll always do, they'll let the kind of market set itself. And, is it a situation like Robinson Cano where he gets a huge deal from Seattle and the Yankees say, you're a budding superstar, but we don't want to keep you? And they look pretty good, I think, for doing that. Jacoby Ellsbury signing after was not good, but I think their reasons for letting him go were good. So, yeah, I mean, the Yankees are really in a no-win situation because they can't afford to lose him. They just don't have they have a good shortstop prospect, Anthony Volpe, that may be the next big thing there. But just with the age of their players, a lot of guys coming off injury, there's not many stable points there. They have a GM that may not come back. I think he probably will. It looks like Aaron Boone's coming back. I think Brian Cashman will come back as long as he wants to. He's been there forever. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of things in flux there. And so, yeah, I think the Giants of those teams you guys mentioned are probably the biggest threat there. And that's probably, if you're going to bet, and I don't want to go either way, I'm not a tout or anything like that, but, that would be the team that you'd probably hit as one to watch.
No, we're going to blame you because people are going to bet Aaron Judge to go to the Giants at plus 200, and then they're going to come after you, Mike. But it's not just the home runs with Judge; it's the Gold Glove defense, and we saw it last year. This past regular season with the Giants, terrible defensive team, and a lot of errors that cost them a lot of games. It wasn't just their pitching and their middle tier bats and their own respective injuries. But let's shift over to the NFL, Mike, and let's do some buy or sell. With some betting odds, you have the Giants near your state. They play in the Meadowlands at 6-1. The Jets are somehow 5-2, have gotten some lucky breaks and faced some fortunate situations with the quarterbacks. on their respective opponents. But sticking with the Giants here, for Daboll's team, they're plus 900 to win the NFC East. And I think were plus 800, plus 850 at the beginning of the regular season. And that's because the Eagles are undefeated up until this point, and the betting market is infatuated with Philly. So would you consider buy or sell betting the Giants at plus 900 still to win this division?
I'd just be super surprised. I'll have been surprised by everything. It seems like they've gotten every bounce, every break, and they've played really well. And Daniel Jones looks like a competent quarterback, which I can't believe. Like, I think he's in top 10 in total QBR. I'm like, Daniel Jones, top 10 in QBR? No way. So, I mean, credit to the coaching staff, Wink, Dable, Kafka, like the whole coaching staff's just revitalized the team. I mean, they had a horrible coach last year. Record showed it. Ownership was getting killed. And it looks like John Mara made a really, really good hire. The Mara family made a really nice hire there in Dable. He's stabilized everything. Saquon's playing out of his mind. Wink has a lot of no names on defense. You barely know who's in the secondary these days, but making that huge stop at the 1 yard line in Jacksonville was crazy. Still, I don't know. It just seems hard to bet against Philly. They looked phenomenal. Hurts looks great. Defensively, they just added another pass rusher, right, in a trade. So I can't see the Giants beating the Eagles and Cowboys. I don't know, but I don't know. Who knows? That they've been so terrific. It's been a really phenomenal year. Like I said, I thought they were going to be in the young sweepstakes. The Alabama kid for quarterback in the top 5 in the draft, and they look like they have a real shot at the playoffs. I mean, they could be 9-1. It's great. The whole thing's crazy. It's a really nice storybook year. New York, we haven't had a lot of success with our sports teams the last decade, but the most fun ones are the ones that come out of nowhere. And both the Giants and Jets are doing it at the same time, and they win every Sunday, and you're just shocked. It's shocking to me because of the dysfunction and everything that's gone on there. Really incredible. But I would say, I'd probably sell the Giants winning the NFC East if we're asking. But I could be wrong. I'll come back. I'd be wrong on a lot of things with the Giants. So.
Well, speaking of the Jets, let's talk about the Jets next. They scored 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes against the Browns. They're pretty fortunate in terms of the quarterbacks that they're facing, whether it's injuries or just bad quarterback play. Eli did put a dig in against my Steelers quarterback in this question here about, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to pass on it. The Jets are plus 135 to make the playoffs and still minus 165 to miss it. So, Mike, are you buying or selling the Jets playoffs hopes here?
Again, that's a tough one too, only because that Breece Hall injury, it just felt like he was carrying their offense. Like they finally tailored everything to him. And I do worry about Zach Wilson. He has a phenomenal group of receivers. One of them wants out. Elijah Moore wants out. So that's kind of some dysfunction they had to deal with at a really weird time. But, he wants more, probably more passes thrown, more targets. He wants more passes thrown his way. So, their defense has been phenomenal. Sauce Gardner's is like one of the most fun players to watch, just electric. I don't see why not. I really don't. I think they could sneak in there. Can they go 9-8? Sure, I could see that. But that Breece Hall injury is tough. The Robinson move is really good from Jacksonville to get, another kind of established running back in there that's had some success in past years. So, I think the Jets can do it. Plus 130. What is it? Plus 135 seems like pretty good value there to take a shot.
How about a bigger long shot, Mike, to wrap it up here with the NBA? I watched Jalen Brunson going back to high school as a freshman when I was a senior at Stevenson and covered him when he was playing at Villanova, won 2 national championships. Now he's in your home state or your current state with the Knicks at plus 2,500 to win most improved player. And he's been off to a phenomenal start. His advanced metrics are off the charts. Would you consider buying that price there, 25-1 that is, to win most improved player?
Yeah, I think, tremendous. I saw somebody compare him to Jason Kidd with the Nets. I think that's a little much, that like Kidd revitalizing the Nets from like everything from the court to like making the people that sell tickets want to work harder. I don't know if he's doing that, but, because I think of that as like the James Harden when he came with the Nets originally, before everything went downhill. Like he was single-handedly carrying the team, averaging near triple-double. But yeah, Brunson stabilized the team. They've had a couple really nice wins. I mean, their opponents haven't been that tough. I think they have some games coming up this weekend. That'll you'll see where they're at. But Julius Randle's playing a lot better because he's kind of falling in the pecking order. He doesn't have to be that ball stopper on offense. Brunson hit that huge 3 late last night. He's a terrific player. I don't think there's any doubt. And so, I think at plus 2,500, why not? That's a really nice gamble. Question is, he was a really good player already too. So that's the one thing there. Like he was a phenomenal player, but now he's stepped into kind of the number one wall. He doesn't have Luka Doncic next to him. He's got RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, who are probably not, thought of as number one options. And so it really, really impressive. Really nice pickup for the Knicks. They haven't had a point guard in like 20 years besides Jeremy Lin for like 3 weeks, which was probably the most fun 3 weeks of sports we'll ever have. I don't know if there'll ever be a phenomenon like that again, just coming out of nowhere. But yeah, I think Brunson is good value. But the question is, like, was he already a good player? Does he get to that like 25 points per game mark? I don't know what he was averaging in Dallas, but it must have been like 16, 17. So that's the one question mark I have there with that.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. If you want updates on the legal betting industry, where your state stands as far as getting legal sports betting, make sure you head over to legalsportsreport.com. And as always, Eli and I will see you next week with Mo. If you are betting this weekend, good luck. We'll see you next time.